we're going to start tonight by just sort of setting the stage for what is this remote event, this Internship Connect remote event? What is it going to be like? What's it going to feel like and look like for you? Who's going? What employers are going to be there for you to be able to meet with? And how do you find out? And then how do you explore those employers? What materials do you need to prepare in advance of this event so that you're making a really strong professional impression for these prospective employers you might be interning with? How can you sign up for the meetings that you're going to have, these one-on-one Zoom meetings, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, but how you actually sign up and participate in the event? Once you're there, what are these conversations going to look like that you're going to have with employers? How can you prepare those conversations? How can you ask the right questions? How can you make the most of that 10-minute interaction that you're going to have with employers at Internship Connect Remote? And then last but not least, how do you follow up? What do you do after this event is over? So first, especially if you have never been to this event before, I want to make sure we're kind of setting the stage and everybody just understands on a basic level what's going to happen. So I actually do think it's worth kind of looking at what has this event looked like in past years when we have done it, and actually what is it going to look like now with the unique times that we're in with COVID and the pandemic. So in past years, as you can kind of see from the image that's on the screen here, this has been sort of a traditional internship fair. So as you can kind of see from this image, it really was in this one rather large room, and employers had tables set up and students could freely go up and talk to any employer that they wished, ask them about their internship opportunities, share materials with them, and just in a very general way, have a conversation about internship opportunities at that organization. So it was very kind of freestyle, free form, where you could walk throughout the room and kind of pick an employer that you wanted to speak with. And then, as I said, once you kind of found employers that you might want to speak with, it really was just a conversation-based event where both the employer was sharing information with you and you were sharing information with the employer. So obviously, in-person events are not really happening right now, right? So we have pivoted this event to be a remote event. So it's going to be done and accomplished over Zoom, just like a lot of what we're doing nowadays is happening. So it's definitely going to look different this year. However, the core of the event remains the same, which is the core being conversations between students like you and employers who have creative internships that they would like to hire RISD students for. That core part of it, that conversation between employers and students, that part is the same. It's just instead of happening in a room at a table, it's now happening over 10-minute Zoom conversations. So I just wanted to kind of illustrate that point for you, that even though a lot of this has changed, the core of the event is actually still the same. So just to better help you understand what this event looks like. So first of all, in case you don't have this marked on your calendar already, October 28th, 6 to 9 p.m., that is when Internship Connect Remote is actually happening. So make sure that that date and time is marked down on your calendar. That's the big event. As I mentioned before, this event, in order to be eligible to attend, you have to be a sophomore level student or higher. So anything from sophomore to a final year grad student is eligible to attend this event. And like I said, the core of this event is the fact that students have the chance to sign up in advance for 10-minute one-on-one Zoom meetings with art and design professionals from over 40 plus employers. And we're going to do a little preview of some of those employers in a bit. But that's really the core. It's those core remote Zoom conversations that are going to be what this event is really about. And these conversations are really a chance for you to share information about yourself and to network with these employers for their upcoming internship opportunities, which they're going to be excited to share information about with you. And the important thing to keep in mind is that, yes, this event is definitely at its core very much about internship opportunities and your chance to kind of learn about what's out there and potentially apply to opportunities that are exciting to you. But also, it's about long-term connections. Everyone you meet at this event, every employer that you have the chance to speak with, that's a professional connection. That's a professional relationship that you have the chance to develop. And so it is about the chance that this could grow into an internship, but it's also now about growing your network and learning from these experienced professionals who are seasoned and have been working in various art and design fields for years at this point. And that has a lot of long-term value to your ability to learn more about what's out there for your, for your profession, for your career, and also potentially get exposure to opportunities, not just for this year, but even down the line as well. So we like to think about this as a relationship building event as well, not just about internship opportunities. So once you sort of have this basic understanding of like, okay, this is what this event is about, and it's about these conversations that you get to have with these employers, one of the logical follow-up questions is, who's going? What employers am I going to get to have a chance to meet with? So actually, real quick, before I dive into that, I do want to just check in with Jason and see if we've got any questions coming up just yet. Doesn't look like it on my end, but I just wanted to check with you. Okay, great. Just as a reminder to everybody, if you do have questions as we go through things and you want to, something's unclear to you or you want to ask about it, chances are you're not the only person out there who has that question. So feel free to throw it in the Q&A and we'll make sure that we address it. So now moving on to how do you understand and actually even research some of the employers that are attending this event. So if you haven't seen it already, we've actually built this entire website for this event. It's internshipconnect.risd.edu. I'm going to throw on my pointer here so you can see exactly what I'm pointing at. So internshipconnect.risd.edu is really going to be your home base for all kinds of information related to this event. But in particular, on that website, there's a section right in the top tab that says Participating Companies 2020. And when you click on that tab, it takes you to essentially this page that you're seeing over here on the right-hand side, which is a list of all the participating companies that are going to be attending this year, as well as the majors that they're interested in seeing. So you can kind of see right here, I'm hovering over Argo Design, and it's showing that they're interested in digital media, graphic design, industrial design, and illustration. So the easiest way for you to get like a quick read on here's who's coming, and also here are the majors that those companies are interested or most interested in meeting with. This is the easiest way to do it, is just to go right to the website, check it out. And also what's really nice is these are all hyperlinked. So all of these companies, if you were to click on the company name, will take you directly to that company's website to allow you to explore their products and services or the work that they're doing. So you can get better acclimated with who they are as a company and the kind of work that they're doing. So if you're unfamiliar with them, it makes it easy for you to better understand the work of the company. One of the things that we recommend as you start to research these companies and you start to explore, okay, here are the companies that are sort of interested in my major, we really encourage that you maybe make a kind of a personal ranked priority list of the companies you're interested in meeting with. So literally, like just on, it could be simple as putting it on a piece of paper and saying, of the companies attending, my #1 favorite company is Microsoft. My #2 favorite company is Google, so on and so forth. Because as we're going to see later on, having this kind of ranked priority list will really help you as you go into the sign-up process to kind of give you a sort of idea for yourself of where do I start as far as signing up with companies, and it will allow you to make sure that you're trying the best you can to get meeting times with the companies that are most important to you. So we really encourage, as you're exploring who's coming, to make this kind of personal priority list for yourself. The other thing I really recommend as well is, I know this sounds obvious, but do a little digging at the websites of the employers that you're looking at. And it really is sometimes surprising how much you can learn just by going to the About page or the Careers page or the Work With Us page, for example, of companies that you're interested in. You oftentimes can learn about what common internship opportunities they have traditionally offered, what their work culture is like and what the people who work there are like, and even a little bit about their values and mission that they hold as a company. So I'm showing you some images on the right here that are from Urban, who's a company that is in fact attending Internship Connect. And you can kind of see on their Work With Us section of their page, they have a lot of information here that sort of gives you insight into what it's like to work or what it's like to intern at Urban. So sections like about where the actual physical space where they work, the type of people that are there, internships that they offer, current openings, so on and so forth. So just to kind of show you, if you were to click, for example, on that internships tab, it actually shows you some of the typical intern positions or areas or functions within the company that they typically hire for. So again, just a little bit of digging, you can kind of start to get some insight into the kinds of positions or kinds of opportunities that might be available at that company. This is also cool too. They're also kind of giving you some clues or some insights into the types of qualities and attributes that they like to see and they like to hire for. Essentially, like what are the qualities they see in people that they hire, both as interns and as full-time employees. So you're kind of seeing that they want people who are entrepreneurial, who are innovative, who are flexible and curious. So this can become food for thought for you if you are considering meeting with Urban at Internship Connect. This sort of plants the seed in your mind of like, oh, it might be good to focus on these qualities and how I embody these qualities through my work or, you know, through my past experiences. So there's like little clues that you can kind of take when you go and do research on a company's website that can actually inform the conversation that you'll have with employees later on. And then speaking to kind of values and mission, sometimes you can even kind of get a sense of like the values or the things that are important to that company. So in the case of Urban, I just think this is a good example where, you know, with the Black Lives Matter movement that's really, really prevalent these days, they sort of really did an honest look at themselves and sort of said, listen, we need to be better and we need to be addressing this movement. And they kind of went and made a statement about here are the ways that we're going to really honor this movement and strive to be better as a company. And they made that message public and it's on their website for everybody to see. So again, you can kind of see from what a company is putting on their website, what their values are and what they believe in. And I think this is a good way for you as you're exploring the companies that are at Internship Connect and even beyond Internship Connect, as you're exploring companies just in general for internships. This could be a way for you to kind of get a feel for, is this place going to be a good fit for me or not? So just keeping an eye on their website and really exploring it deeply can actually yield a lot of good information. If you want to take it to a next level and really want to do some deep research on a company, I really encourage you to maybe take a look at LinkedIn. And in particular, you can go to the company page for any given company on LinkedIn. So like in this instance, again, we're kind of following with the example of Urban. I was able to pull up Urban's company page on LinkedIn. And one of the things that's really cool about the way LinkedIn works as a platform is on a company page, you can kind of select this tab of people and then pick a certain school, and it will actually show you if there are alumni from that school working at that company. And as you can see from this example here, we do actually have a lot of alumni, about 40, that are working at Urban or the Urban portfolio of companies currently. And that's a really cool thing to see, because for one, it's really nice to see when companies have that sort of RISD family that's already there, right? There's already RISD people there that have experienced the same education as you, and in some ways may even kind of think creatively like you think. And that's a nice thing, right? It's nice to know that you could be going into an internship where that already exists. But also, it's a chance for you to explore the different kinds of jobs that RISD alumni are doing at that company. Like, what are the different creative roles, essentially, right? Like, and even in this preview that you're seeing on the screen where it's only showing 4 of the 40, you kind of see people who are working in graphic design roles, who are working in apparel roles, CAD design, and then even somebody at such a high level like we have here of Hillary, who's working as executive director of home design at Anthropology, which is one of the Urban portfolio companies, so to speak. So it's really amazing for certain companies, the level of depth you can do of research on LinkedIn, how much you can learn about the different roles there and what alumni are already doing there. So again, this is sort of like next level stuff, but if you really want to invest in learning about companies, this is something that I recommend doing. And especially if you can, in advance of Internship Connect. So before we kind of move on to the next section, I do want to just give you the quickest kind of slice of companies that are attending. So as I mentioned, there's over 40 organizations that are registered to attend, and we actually are still signing up companies over the next couple of days, so that number could in fact even grow. So what I'm about to show you is not everybody that's attending. It's really just a quick slice, but just to give you a sense of like the range and type of companies that are coming, I wanted to just show you a few to get you excited. So I had mentioned Microsoft earlier, but we have companies like Microsoft, like Google, like Facebook, really major tech companies that are going to be here looking to hire RISD interns from graphic design, industrial design, digital media, illustration, etc. Speaking of illustration, I'm actually really excited to say that Bento Box is going to be here. So I'm personally a big Bob's Burgers fan. I don't know if we have a lot of Bob's Burgers fans out there in the audience, but especially Tina. Tina's like one of my spirit animal or like spirit character. I love Tina. But Bento Box is the production company, is the animation company that produces Bob's Burgers. So, and amongst many other animated TV shows and features. So it's really cool that Bento Box is going to be here looking for interns. For textile majors especially, but maybe even illustrators who are interested in surface design or potentially even apparel designers who have a real fine interest in textiles. We have a company like Valdez Weavers, who, as you can kind of see from this image, their whole thing is producing and designing textiles for home markets, so for home residential markets, for hospitality, for office spaces. So kind of think of any interior space you can almost imagine in Valdez Weavers. It's producing textiles that are utilized in those spaces on furniture and drapery and other kinds of things. Map Projects is a really cool company, really super kind of diverse too in the work that they do. So what you're seeing on screen actually is a partnered project that they did with Spotify, where they were actually highlighting highlighting the history of Black musicians and musicians of color through this kind of interactive exhibition. And they do things like that, which are like kind of experiential installations, but then they also do work that is more kind of live action production, video production work. So they're a super diverse company and also a place that has not only come to our events in the past, but also hired RISD interns in the past as well. On the fine art side, right in your backyard, but still an amazing resource and an amazing place to intern, is the RISD Museum, who routinely, both throughout the year as well as in the summer, hires many interns across exhibitions, across curation, across education, all different kinds of roles within the museum environment. And we're really excited. Again, even though that they're right in our backyard, it's really amazing that you're going to have the chance to talk to museum professionals, especially if you're interested in potentially pursuing a career in museums or gallery spaces. This would be a terrific organization to try to meet with. Black Math is sort of a creative advertising agency based in Boston. They're also another place that has a good long history of hiring from RISD and also attending our events. As you can kind of see from the image that I pulled from one of their projects on the screen here, they do a lot of work that is either kind of illustrative or motion graphics or pure animation, as well as some live action production work as well. And in fact, one of their current art directors is actually an alum from illustration. And they're a really cool company that, especially if you have those interests in either production or illustration, could be really good to meet with. I had mentioned Urban, so I won't spend too much time on them. But I think one of the cool things about Urban is it's not just one company, right? It's Urban Outfitters, but then it's also Anthropology and Free People and so on. So it's not just, opportunities within apparel, but also opportunities, within home design and product design and even accessories design to a certain extent. So I think like it's also a company that has kind of potentially could have diverse internships for a lot of different majors. On the publishing side, we have a company like Chronicle Books, who, as you can kind of see from that image on the screen, their thing is really kind of focusing on either artist books or graphic novels or really visually driven written material. So they oftentimes are a really exciting place for artists and designers to want to be as far as a publishing company goes. And this could be a really awesome company if you're interested in books and publishing and the written word. Could be a really awesome company for you to get involved in. On the architectural side and kind of spatial design side, we have a company like Robert A.M. Stern's Architects, or RAMSA for short, which, as you might guess, is an architecture company. But they're really, again, like just another great firm that has a long history of hiring many RISD alumni. They've come to so many of our events, including Internship Connect in the past. And for our architecture students, could be a great company to target and have a conversation with. Hasbro, many people are familiar with, another company that's sort of right in your backyard in the sense that their world headquarters are in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, so right down the road from RISD. That's another one kind of similar to how we were showing with Urban, where there was like 40 alums. There's a ton of alumni who work at Hasbro, so it's just a really RISD-friendly place. So if you have an interest in toys and play, in gaming, you know, again, regardless of your major, I think Hasbro could be a really, really good fit to explore because there's a kind of an established RISD family there in so many different ways where your creativity could kind of flourish and be utilized. So Hasbro is another great place to consider. And then last but not least, we have a company like TellArt, which, as you can kind of see from the image on the screen, they're really kind of an avant-garde type of company at the cutting edge of technology and design and art.
So sorry, everyone. Scott, it seems like he's taking a little break. So we're just going to hang on a second. I'm sure he'll dial right back in.
Here.
Yeah, so under the answered column, Scott, I just thought it might be worth reiterating on a question that we had from an anonymous attendee on a second-year grad and a two-year program. Do students get job offers at this event, or is it restricted to just internships?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think the focus of this event is internships, right? So the core of the event is thinking about internship opportunities, and it is geared towards internship opportunities as opposed to job offers. So I do think it's important to point that out. However, I did kind of mention this earlier. This event is also, though it is about internships, it is about professional connections, right? It's about building connections and building relationships at companies that you're interested in. And meeting with those professionals and meeting with other artists or other designers that are going to be at this event representing companies, yes, that's useful for applying to internships, but also down the line, if you are interested in jobs or you're graduating soon, those connections can also be helpful as you are exploring job opportunities too. So what I would say is that the focus of the event is about internships, and most of the employers are going to be thinking in that way to a certain extent. But at the same time, if you are somebody who's just interested in these companies and want the chance to be able to talk with them, to share your work with them, as well as ask them questions about what they look for in hiring and what they look for when they're hiring designers or artists or whatever the case may be, I do think that's a good thing. And I think you should consider attending still and trying to meet with the representatives from from the companies as well. So hopefully, I know that was sort of I said two things at the same time, but it really is, I think it's kind of both, but the focus is definitely more on internships and full-time jobs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think the next thing, we should get into the next section, but we have seen a lot of questions that are specific to the sign-up process.
Yes.
And so I've been reassuring everybody, and I hope you're seeing these answers coming through, that we will be talking about all aspects of the sign-up process, applying for an option. If you don't get a sign-up, what happens and how do you submit your materials? We are definitely going to get into it really soon.
Definitely, yeah. That's actually basically coming right up after this section. It's going to be the next one. So as Jason said, don't worry, sit tight. We are going to go step by step through that sign-up process. But before we get there, and I am somewhat taking this kind of chronologically in the sense that this is actually more or less the steps that you should take as far as preparing, right? So we're starting with understanding the event, then we're going into how do you find out who's going, like what employers are going to be there and how do I research them? And now we're kind of getting into a little bit more about you, which is how do you prepare and create materials that you are going to need to show as part of this event, and also to use as part of the sign up. So it's going to segue nicely into that section. But having said that, here's basically the rundown of what you need for this event as far as materials or documents. So I want to make this very, very clear. It is required, as you're seeing here, it's totally required that you have a resume. You will absolutely 100% need a resume, and it will need to be uploaded into the artwork system. We'll get to that in a second, but you will need a resume in order to attend this event. So you will not be able to attend without a resume. So that is an absolutely required element. We do suggest, though it's not required, we also suggest that you consider making a portfolio sample and essentially a small way to show your work. I'll show some examples of what the portfolio sample looks like in a minute. But we suggest also creating this if you're able to, because it's this pairing of a resume, which kind of highlights your skills and past work experiences or studio experiences, as well as a portfolio sample that gives a little preview of your work, is such a nice, professional, perfect pairing that employers love to see, because then they get essentially like a visual introduction to the kind of work that you make, as well as the kind of written or verbal introduction to what your background is and what you're studying and things like that. So these two things paired together work really well. Go ahead, Jason, you want to chime in?
Yeah, could you please, we got a great question about like
Yeah.
what's the difference between a portfolio website and
Yep.
a portfolio sample?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to show you an actual portfolio sample in a second, so you will see the difference. But basically, when we talk about a portfolio sample versus a full portfolio, so your full portfolio website is really your entire portfolio, right? It's got all of the pieces in your portfolio, it's got all of the projects, and oftentimes the ability to kind of click on different projects and see each one in some level of detail. A portfolio sample is really more the best of the best. It truly is a sample. You're really highlighting not everything that you've done, but a simple document that is essentially like a little preview or best of. So again, this will make more sense in a second when you see it. First, I want to talk about resumes, because this is the core and the most required element that you're going to need. So I'm not going to do a deep dive into resumes right now, but just some kind of quick pointers and things for you to understand. So for one, if you're really unsure about resumes, or you've never made one, or you want to, make sure that your most recent resume is as good as it can be, keep in mind on our website, on the link that I'm showing here with the pointer, we actually have an entire page and an entire section of our website that has a breakdown of what goes into an effective resume, as well as a downloadable PDF that actually provides you working samples. So you're seeing that like an example of a working sample on the right side of your screen right now. And I'll just kind of cycle through some of them just so you can see, like in that downloadable PDF I mentioned, there's actually a whole range, different styles, different levels, different majors. So you'll really have a lot to look at and consider as you build your resume. But the core, what you really want to do with your resume is create a document that focuses on past creative work experience if you have it. Again, if you have it, if you're a younger student, sophomore level, it's okay, you may not have it. But if you do, if you've had past internships or freelanced in the past or done commissioned work, those are great things to highlight. Even if you don't have those experiences, you want your resume, much like you're seeing here in this section, you want your resume to highlight skills, especially creative skills that are related to your intern goals, related to the types of industries that you want to work in. You can also, sort of like you're seeing here in this section on the screen, you can also even create a section that highlights some of your coursework, some of the studios that you're taking at RISD, as a further way to kind of elevate certain experiences or certain skill sets you have. So in this example that you're seeing on the screen, this is an illustration student who's interested in gaming. So they're actually showing a couple of studios that they took in a character and environment design course, as well as a 3D illustration course that relates to the world of gaming and showcases skills that are going to be relevant to a gaming studio, perhaps. So you can do things like that for your major, regardless of what it is. And then somebody had mentioned a full online portfolio. So this is where, when you upload your resume, when you include your resume for this event, it is smart, if you have one, to have a link to your online portfolio, whether that's your own website or you're using RISD Portfolios or Behance, all is fine. But definitely consider, and in fact, we would recommend, if you do have a full portfolio, link it on your website so that employers do have a way to see your full portfolio if that's something that they want to do. Now, having your full portfolio linked on the resume is one thing. However, this is where we get into this portfolio sample that we are, again, suggesting. It's not required for the event. I don't want you to feel like if you don't have this, you can't attend. That is definitely not the case. All you need for sure is that resume. But if you have time and you want to try to maximize things, we do recommend potentially creating a portfolio sample like you're seeing on the screen here, which is basically, it's actually kind of simple. It's basically just a concise one-page sheet that is highlighting some of your best work, and through the work that you're showing, highlighting some of the creative skills that you have. So in this example, we see somebody who's, you know, an apparel major, and they're kind of taking an approach of they're actually showing really just one piece, and they're showing different images from that piece, as well as on the bottom here, kind of showing like a fashion illustration skill set as well. So they're taking a really limited approach of showing just really kind of like one or two things, but it's diving into this skill set that they have. Another approach, like you're seeing on the screen here with a different example, is you can take a bit more of an approach that's a little bit broader, meaning what you're seeing here is like 4 examples of different work. And, you know, I want you to see this. This is an example of somebody who is a fairly recent graduate. They have a high level of experience in the furniture world. So I don't want you to be intimidated by seeing this, but I do think this is an example of what an effective portfolio sample can look like, where you're really just highlighting 3 or 4 images that represent your work and are also highlighting skills that you're trying to show to the company, right? So that could be anything from like drawing and character design to fabrication skills to product design to architectural and spatial design. It really spans the gamut of the different kinds of majors that are at RISD. But I think taking this approach of thinking about what are maybe my 3 or 4 best projects and how can I, you know, lay those out and outline them on a portfolio sample sheet, it's a great, really slick professional way to show your work to employers. So again, suggested, something to consider. So hopefully, I think we had some really good questions about like the difference between a full portfolio and a portfolio sample. Hopefully seeing these examples helps you kind of understand, you know, there's a full portfolio website, but this is really just sort of a snapshot of that. And it's actually kind of enticing them to maybe go see all of your work. So hopefully that makes sense after seeing this. And if not, please chime in again with questions. So a lot of people are asking about the signups, and we're going to really kind of take this step by step. So hopefully it's incredibly clear how to go about this. And also, Jason, too, if you want to chime in at any point and offer some clarifying thoughts, please feel free. So again, questions, like shoot, let us know, and we'll definitely make sure that this process is super simple. Yeah, Jason, go for it.
Yeah, and so I was heads down answering some questions. So just to ensure that this was covered, which I'm pretty sure it must have been, but there were questions about like, what if I don't have experience in my resume?
Yep.
And I believe you did cover that, you know, students, they all have to start from somewhere and they don't always have experience. And that's still a good reason to meet with people at Internship Connect. So experience is not a requirement.
Right, correct. Yeah, so I think you said it exactly. And also, I didn't mention this earlier, but it's worth stating. If you are concerned about essentially that very question, like I don't have a lot of experience and so I don't know what to put on my resume, or I don't know what to highlight, or what I should be kind of focusing on for employers, that's totally an understandable question and kind of feeling. And one of the things I would keep in mind is that we are a resource for you. So not only do you have those examples online of some of those other resumes you can look at, and sort of those can be models for you, but also we're advisors. So we do drop-in advising as well as a full 30-minute or 60-minute appointments that you can meet with us during and get personalized advice. So if you have questions about your own resume or your own experience, and you want to know like, yeah, I don't have a lot of experience, but I want to figure out how I can really highlight my skills that I'm gaining through studio and also just maybe my studio classes, and I want to do that and highlight those things effectively well on my resume, meet with us. Come to our drop-in hours or schedule an appointment with us, and we'll work with you in a personalized way to help you build the best resume that you can, and also potentially build a portfolio sample if that's something that you're interested in. So if you have that question of like, you know, again, I don't have a lot of experience and I don't really know how to handle that, that's a really common feeling, especially, you know, early on if you're like a sophomore or even maybe even a junior. So don't be shy, reach out to us, and we will definitely help get you prepared over the next couple of weeks. So I hope that sort of takes the edge off a little bit. We're definitely here to back you up.
Yeah, and then just another minor note, Scott. I did get a lot of questions about portfolios and portfolio samples. And just to reiterate, portfolios and portfolio samples are not a requirement for the event.
Correct.
I get the sense from some of the people that are checking in with me that they have this intensity like, oh no, I need to have this ready. And really it's like, it's bonus material, but this event is about making connections, starting conversations, and the requirement is on the resume.
100%. Yep. do not feel pressured into having to feel like you have to make a portfolio sample, especially if you're feeling unsure about it, or you're feeling like you're barely going to have time to maybe fine tune your resume. It is a secondary thing. So the sign up process, what's this actually going to look like? So first things first, when are you actually going to be signing up for these 10-minute Zoom meetings that you're going to have with employers? So while the event itself is Wednesday, October 28th from 6 to 9 p.m., the sign up is actually essentially a week before on Thursday, 10/22, starting at 7 p.m. So I just want to make that clear. The sign up process for you to actually schedule those meetings is coming on the Thursday prior to the event. So just so that's like 100% clear. And as we've been talking about kind of throughout the talk, there are some things we recommend you do even before that sign up process. So it's important for you to know that signups are first come, first serve, meaning as the signups open on Thursday, the 22nd at 7 p.m., there are available slots for all the companies, and the first people to sign up for the slot, that's the person who gets it. So that's just the system, that's how it's going to work. And this is why, if you remember back before when we were looking at, exploring companies, this is partly why we encourage you to create a top list of companies or a ranked list of companies, because that will help you be fast. That will help you kind of move through sign up process in a very logical, strategic way, right? You'll start with your top ranked company, then you'll go to 2, then you'll go to 3, so on and so forth. So that's really why we encourage that. It'll help this sign up process move smoothly for you. Again, we've been talking about how resumes are a required element. So we do recommend that you load your resume into Artworks prior to the sign up process, prior to Thursday the 22nd. And again, optionally, if you do have a portfolio sample as well, you can load that. You can preload that as well, so that you have both of those documents ready. And you'll see in a minute why that's useful. But we recommend that kind of preloading. And then this is important. If you do have class during this sign up process, at any point during this sign up process, we do really ask that you get permission from your instructor if you need to miss class to do this sign up process. We hope that not many of you will have to do that, but if you do need to miss class, you need to receive permission from your instructor in order to do that. You cannot just participate in the sign up without your instructor's permission. So first step to the sign up. What you're going to want to do is log into Artworks. So the sign up process is occurring on Artworks. The link to sign up to Artworks is this link right here, risd.1220.com. That link can also be found on our website. If you go into internships and jobs, there's an Artworks pull down tab. And then if you click on that, it'll give you the login for students. So it's accessible through this direct link as well as on our website. Your sign up, your password, if you've never been on Artworks before, your sign up is the same as your RISD single sign on for your email and other things. So that password is the same. And we really do encourage that you use a laptop for signups instead of a mobile device. The sign up process will work best for you via signups, or via laptop, I should say. So hopefully you have a priority list at this point, right? You've developed your list of companies that you're looking to meet with. The first step in the sign up, once you log into Artworks, is going to be to find companies that you want to sign up with. So I'll show a video of this in a second, so it's very crystal clear. But basically what you're going to want to do is click on OCI and jobs in the left-hand navigation, then click OCI at the top of that page. And just for your reference, what OCI stands for is on-campus interviews, even though during this time, obviously there are no on-campus interviews, but that's sort of what that terminology means, just so you can kind of understand it. So again, here's what that will look like to you when you're logged into Artworks. As I said, you'll click on OCI and job listings. Once you do that, you're then going to click on OCI. And what you'll see when this happens is it will load all of the different companies that are going to be at Internship Connect. It'll essentially load all of the different applications that you can apply to. So the next step, once you have that loaded list, is you're going to apply to the OCI for the company that you are interested in, right? So you'll see this in the video to follow, but by applying to the OCI for that company, or by applying to that company, the company is going to receive your resume in advance of Internship Connect Remote. Really important thing to keep in mind for Thursday night, for Thursday the 22nd as well, is that you are, for that first night, you are limited to 3 applications or 3 interview time slots with 3 different companies. So for that first night only, you're going to be limited to only having 3 different interview time slots. We're going to actually open up the registration in the next day at noon, which you'll see a little bit in a second. And at that point, that 3 company limit is restricted. But for this first night, you're only going to be able to register for 3 different meetings, just so you have that heads up. So again, applying to an OCI, here's what that's going to look like, right? So when you see it on the screen here, clicking on this test employer, and then the right-hand corner, clicking on apply, it then gives you the opportunity to upload both the resume and a portfolio sample. Again, the resume is required, the portfolio sample is optional, but it'll give you the option to upload both. Choose the file from your computer, hit apply, and it will let you know if you have done that successfully. It'll say, okay, congratulations, you've successfully applied. However, you're not done yet. So what you're going to see next is, once you've applied, you now have the opportunity to select a time slot, to select a 10-minute Zoom meeting with that company. And again, you can book on the first night, you can book up to 3 of these. So what you'll see is you'll be able to select the time. And then once you do that successfully, it'll actually show you what the Zoom link is going to be for that meeting. So you'll have the exact link that you can click on for that 10-minute scheduled meeting. And again, just a kind of a caution, be careful to avoid double booking 2 of the exact same time slots. So in other words, you don't want to book a meeting with one company at 6:10 p.m. On the night of Internship Connect, and then book a different company at the same time. So make sure that you're not overbooking or double booking the same time slot as you go through this process. So again, just to kind of continue the video, it'll ask you to select a time. You want to make sure you do this. Once you do that, it'll give you a page with available time slots. You select a time that works for you. Once you hit select time, it'll tell you if you've done it successfully. And it'll actually take you back to this page. And again, it'll show you that you've successfully scheduled that interview, and also provide the link to you that you need to, when it comes time on Internship Connect, to join that meeting with that employer. So this is an important element to be aware of, and hopefully not too confusing. So I'll try to explain this as clearly as possible. But again, remember, on this first evening of signups, you're limited to just 3 applications, to just 3 signups. So let's say you're trying to sign up for a company, and you go to select a time and you realize that they're totally full. They have filled up because they're a really popular company and there are actually no more time slots available. What you want to do at that point is you actually want to kind of back up a step and withdraw your application from that company, because that will allow you to free up that time slot and pick a different company. Since that company is no longer, accepting time slots, they're full. This will allow you to kind of pivot and choose a different company that you also have interest in. So seeing or understanding how to withdraw your application if needed, if a company that you're interested in is totally full, this is an important part of the process too. So again, if you need to do this, you may not need to, but if you need to do this, you would go to that company page and simply click on withdraw application, and that'll essentially give you that spot back, right? So that limit of 3, you'd gain that spot back if you were to do this withdraw application. You could use it on another company. So hopefully that's clear. If we get questions of that, I'm happy to go into that a little bit more, or if Jason wants to as well. But that's on that first night, that's an important element that you may need to use. I keep saying on the first night. So the reality is that there's actually more than just that one night of Thursday, October 22nd, to sign up. We are actually going to open signups up again on Friday, the 23rd of October at noon. So at noon, that 3 company limit that I'm talking about, that actually will get lifted. So at that point, you're not limited to just 3 anymore. You can actually add more meetings if you want to. You don't have to, but it's certainly an option that you can take advantage of. And we also want to make sure that you're aware that you're sure to finish all of your signups by the end of the day on Friday. So be sure that you complete signing up for all your interview time slots, you complete filling out your applications by the end of the day on Friday, because we will be sending companies a package, essentially a schedule of who they're going to be meeting with, the times they're going to be meeting with those students. And as we mentioned, it will include your resume and if you've also uploaded it, your portfolio sample. So you want to make sure that you're concluding the sign up process by the end of the day on Friday so that the employers are receiving all of your materials when we send it to them. This is also kind of an interesting thing that you can do to kind of really maximize the event. So even if a company runs out, a company's schedule gets full, right? Even if a company fills up their schedule and they have no more 10-minute time slots available, we actually still encourage you to do that first step that we showed, which is applying, where you're uploading your resume and or portfolio sample, because what that will allow you to do is that company will now, even though they won't be able to meet with you one-on-one, when we send a package to them, they will actually see that you are interested in meeting with them, and they will receive your resume and or portfolio sample if you've included both of those things. So we will encourage those companies to say, well, we'll basically say to them, hey, we know that you were really popular, your schedule's totally full, but there was actually this group of students that really wanted to meet with you as well, but couldn't get on your schedule. So please do take a look at their applications, take a look at their resumes and portfolio samples, and be in touch with them if you can and if you're able to. So we do encourage you to apply to companies even if their schedule is full. So essentially do that first step even if that time slot is filled up for that company. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, Jason, go for it.
So there was a question that came in, and there may be some confusion for this person, maybe more people, about when we're talking about the first sign-up day and the second sign-up day. This is purely only for sign-ups for this one event that's going to happen on October 28th, because this question that came in was asking if there are multiple days for the companies to participate. And what you're talking about right now is strictly the sign-ups on October 22nd, and then the second day of signups on October 23rd, just for signups in advance of the big event on October 28th. I just wanted to make sure that that was really clear to everybody.
Yep, well said, Jason. Thanks for addressing that. If there are more questions about signups, please do throw them into the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we address them before the evening is out. Also, again, keep in mind that we're a resource to you. So if this is still confusing to you, for one, these slides that show the sign-up process are actually available on the Internship Connect website. If you go to the student section and you go to the sign-up section, you can go through these slides again to sort of better understand this process. So don't feel like you have to rely on just what you're seeing right now. But also, if you're unsure about it, if you're still confused, come see us. You know, we're available during, for drop-in hours, for Zoom meetings, as well as for a Zoom appointment. So talk to us, ask us questions, and we'll make sure you feel comfortable about it before the sign-up process on Thursday the 22nd and Friday the 23rd. And of course, before the event itself takes place on October 28th in the evening at 6 p.m. So moving on to the next thing, and I think this is an important area. So again, chronologically, you're now at the point where you have signed up for these meetings. So you essentially know at this point who you're going to be meeting with. You know what 10-minute meetings you're going to have at Internship Connect and exactly when they're going to take place and who you're going to be speaking with. So at this point, it makes sense for you to really start to consider, okay, what am I going to say to employers? I know who I'm meeting with. How can I make the most of this conversation? So I have a few tips to kind of help you with this, because I think this can be an intimidating thing for a lot of people, especially if you don't have a lot of experience either interviewing or talking with employers. This can be a daunting thing, and I want to maybe help alleviate some anxiety around it. So one of the ways I like to think about this is try to prepare some talking points before you go into the conversation. So think about what you're going to say before you actually go into that 10-minute meeting. And I'm presenting this structure here on the left. Your conversation doesn't have to flow like this or doesn't have to look exactly like this, but I think this is a good way to sort of organize your thoughts. So when you go into that meeting, you're probably going to start with an introduction, right? You're going to introduce yourself by name. You're going to mention your year in school. You're going to talk about your major and what you're studying. And then it makes a lot of sense to explain what you know about that company and why you're interested in meeting with them, right? So you signed up for a 10-minute meeting with them, so you have some kind of interest or excitement in engaging with that company and learning about their internships. So explain what you know about the company or why you're excited about the possibility of potentially interning there. Make it personal, connect with who you're talking with. Then kind of switch it around a little bit. So another part of the conversation, you might kind of pivot to talking a little bit more about yourself, right? So talk about your own passion about, what you're passionate about. So what areas of design, what areas of creative work are you passionate about? And your own unique creative skills. So what are the things you do really well? Again, like you might be really strong with physical making and fabricating, or you might be really strong with concept or drawing or anything in between. Think about the areas of art and design that you're really good at and how you can highlight those for employers. Kind of pick out your 2 to 3 best skills and be prepared to kind of talk about those things and highlight them for employers. And then once you've accomplished the introduction and a little pitch about yourself, you might want to pose a question to jumpstart the conversation. And be ready to kind of ask questions to learn about their internship opportunities or to learn about that person in general. So to help you kind of work through these talking points, I just want to give you some prompts that you can consider. You certainly do not have to cover all of these things or all of these areas in your 10-minute conversation. You probably won't have time, but these are things to think about or consider talking about or consider sharing with the employer. So when you're sharing and talking about yourself, you might consider talking about why you chose RISD or why you chose your major or grad program in particular. You might consider talking about your creative interests and passions, as I mentioned before. What really gets you excited creatively? What are your key skill sets? What do you hope to learn from an internship? What are you hoping to gain? What are you thinking you can learn from being a part of a company? And on the flip side of that, what might you contribute, right? What core abilities or past experiences do you have that you think will translate to that internship experience? At the end of the day, I hope this resonates with you, this last bullet point. Go into this feeling confident, right? So these 40 plus employers, they're attending because they want to meet with you, right? They want to meet RISD students. They're excited to see the work that you're doing. They're excited to hear from you. They're excited to learn about what you're studying and what you're exploring in art and design. So go into it with that confidence, right? They're there to meet with you. And so what you're sharing and what you're talking about and the things you're telling them about yourself, like that's what they want to hear. So just go into this with confidence and don't be too intimidated by the situation. I mentioned like you want to introduce yourself and kind of give a pitch about your background and experiences, but then you also want to prepare questions and have some questions ready that may help guide the conversation. So again, probably not going to have time to ask all of these, but these are some options you can consider. So for example, something kind of as simple and basic as what types of internship opportunities do you have available? What types of roles are available for students to apply to? Can you tell me about your role in the organization? So learning about the position that that person has and what their day-to-day looks like. What skills, abilities, kind of portfolio projects, what are they looking for in a potential intern? What are the things that they look for? What separates applicants who are applying for an internship? Have they hired RISD interns before? And if so, what have the interns done? What kind of work have they been involved in the company before? So ask them to talk about different projects that interns have been involved in previously. And then the last one here, if you do have a portfolio sample, this can be a nice way to kind of segue to talking about your work. You could say, do you mind if we quickly discuss my portfolio sample? I submitted it to you prior to this, but also I have it ready to share my screen if you want to talk about some of the projects or discuss the work with me. And that could be a nice way to pivot the conversation to talking about your work, again, if that's something that you want to do. So some of these prompts, some of these questions, some of these ideas, again, you may not have the ability to tackle all of them in 10 minutes. And in fact, the reps from these companies are going to be sharing information with you. So it truly is going to be a two-way conversation. But I did want to show an example of how those talking points could actually formulate an introduction and kind of formulate what you might say. So in this example, and I'll just read it out loud so you all can kind of follow along. We have a student who's saying, you know, my name is Jaleesa Downing, and I'm a sophomore in industrial design. I was so excited to see that Kohler would be here at Internship Connect, as I'm very interested in design for the home environment. And I also noticed on LinkedIn that multiple RISD alumni work at the company. Thus far in the department, I've been developing strong fabrication skills in wood and metal, and I've also begun to teach myself SolidWorks, in addition to learning much of the Adobe Creative Suite. So, right, this is where they're kind of highlighting some of their key skills and abilities. I've even done some product design related projects, which you can see in my portfolio sample if you'd like. And then this is where they kind of pivot to a question to sort of get the other person involved. I'm curious, what kinds of skills do you look for in an intern, and what do interns usually do as part of the team at Kohler? So again, doesn't have to look exactly like this, but this gives you an idea of how that conversation can look if you've prepared some ideas and some thoughts beforehand. And again, I'll just keep coming back to this. If you're nervous about this, if you're not sure what you want to talk about individually in your own situation, please do come to drop-ins, come talk to us, come meet with us, and we will definitely help you kind of work through this. Couple of quick Zoom etiquette tips. Since this is occurring over Zoom, I think it's important to kind of think about that platform for a second. So breaking it down into things to do before Internship Connect Remote and things to do after. So before, it's very wise to test your camera and video, test your Wi-Fi connection. As you've seen tonight, that's a really important thing to do. And screen sharing prior to the start of the program, just to be sure everything is working properly. You also want to minimize distractions in your background. Make sure the area behind you is clean, that there's not a lot of activity, there's not people walking around. Keep it simple, keep it clean. The lighting is really important. You want to have good lighting, and especially lighting that is in front of you or at the very least above you, not behind you. You don't want to be backlit. That'll make it difficult to see your face. If you do choose a Zoom background, one of those digital backgrounds, just be careful with that. It sometimes can distort your appearance and give sort of a kind of blurry appearance along the edges of your face. So again, it's okay if you want to do that, but just test it out and make sure that it's looking okay before the big night on the 28th. And then for the night of, and really once the, really when it's zero time for the event, when it's game time, dress appropriately. So again, keep in mind, these are professionals that you're meeting with, and these are professional interactions. So don't really want to wear like overly casual gear. So things like a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, like super casual wear like that may give off a really casual impression, and that may not be the best thing. So you want to wear clean, polished attire. It really leaves a positive impression with employers. Make sure you turn off all notifications that may pop up on your screen. As well, turn off your cell phone. Make sure your cell phone is silent and notifications are off there, so there's no distracting elements during the conversation. And then just when you're meeting with the employer, be present, right? Be engaged, look into the camera, have good body language. I'm sure all of you will be really excited and engaged to be having these conversations, but just make sure that the employer can feel that, because that also, these nonverbal cues, those matter too. And the employer is going to want to feel like you're engaged and excited about the conversation. So just make sure that you're giving those good nonverbal cues as well. So we're almost at the tail end here. We're almost at the end. I want to check in with Jason and see if there's any other questions that have come in since we talked about the sign up or talking about the conversation. If there's kind of nothing or not a lot of questions that are coming in, we can kind of move on to the last section, which is following up.
Yeah, you've covered the, what to talk about really well. Would you talk about a portfolio review in one of these 10-minute meetings? Would you go through an entire portfolio during a 10-minute meeting?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jason. Yeah, so it's a great point that the intent of this event is not that it be a full portfolio review, right? So that you're not going into this conversation and you're going to spend that 10 minutes just showing them your website or showing them your full portfolio. That is not the intent of this event, as we've kind of been saying throughout. The real goal is that you have conversations, right? That you share information about yourself, and you also give the employer an opportunity to share information about their company and about their internships and about what they look for in internship applicants or applications, so that you can follow up on this event and really make the best applications to these companies that you can. because that at the end of the day is a big part of this. We do want this this event to lead to internship opportunities for you. So the core of this event is the conversation, and not so much that you would spend the time doing a full portfolio review. You really wouldn't have the time to do that, to introduce yourself and then launch into a full portfolio review in the event. And also the employers are not really expecting that either. So just want to be, totally clear that that's not the purpose of the event, and the idea is not that this 10 minutes be used, to go through your entire portfolio website. That makes sense. Yeah, go for it, Jason.
Yes, it does. And I just want to share a question that came in, which was actually a really amazing idea. So this person was asking if there's a way to favorite your OCIs so that come sign up night, you can only look at your favorite selections. And I don't want to go off into a rabbit hole here, but when you're using the laptop, not on the mobile device, but on the laptop, you've got the full filters available. And one of the filters when you're looking at OCIs is favorite only, yes or no. So you can in fact do it. Some of this probably sounds like tech jargon. And I welcome anybody to follow up with me or Scott or any of us to dig into this more, and we can demo it for you. But everybody can go in and start looking and favoriting OCIs right now.
Great point, Jason. Really a great question, and really great follow-up too. So I'm glad that one got addressed as well. Yeah, absolutely. So I think, we'll kind of plow ahead here and make it to the final section here, which is, okay, you've gone through everything. You've done everything. You've actually, October 28th has passed. You've done the event. You've had the conversations with employers. Pat yourself on the back. You've done amazing work. There's just one more thing that we really encourage that you do. Even though you've had these great conversations and in some ways it feels like you're done, we really encourage you to do one more thing, and that's just make sure you follow up with the individuals that you spoke with at the event. Because following up is a really important part of really any professional interaction, whether it's a networking conversation like this, or it's more of a formal interview that you may have later on, or maybe you've even had in your past experiences. It's a really important thing to do. So in case the concept of follow-up is sort of kind of foreign or sounds odd to any of you, what we're really talking about is the opportunity for you to send a message to those individuals that you met with to really thank them for taking the time. Because keep in mind, these are professionals who are taking time out of their busy work schedules to be able to have these conversations with students and share information about what internships look like at their companies, or what work looks like at their companies in general. And so they're really donating their time in a lot of ways to do that. And so it is such a classy and professional move for you as a student to follow up with them via email and thank them for the opportunity that you had to speak with them. Not only that, by following up in that way, it does a couple of things. So as you're seeing kind of in the bullet points there, it demonstrates real genuine and sincere interest on your part that not only did you appreciate the conversation, but that you're actually really excited and engaged in potentially interning at that organization. So it's really a nice way to follow up and show that you're sincere in your interest. And also, that helps keep the conversation alive, right? So in other words, instead of the conversation maybe ending at Internship Connect, it can become kind of almost like a living, breathing, ongoing engagement and conversation that you have with the employer about not only about internships, but just about working at that company in general. It can become a kind of a lasting professional connection. So this is why the follow-up process is really, really important. So as I kind of mentioned, I really think for most of you, follow-up is going to look like a simple kind of small thank you note that you would send definitely over email, and maybe even also over LinkedIn as well. So I'll kind of explain that a little bit. But we definitely encourage you sending an email to the individuals that you met with. And like I said, really in that message, it's short and sweet, but you can kind of break that down by first giving thanks that they, carved out time to meet with you. I always think it's a nice little professional touch to reference details of the conversation. So if they made a comment on your work, or made a comment about what working or interning is like at that company, and that really stuck out to you, something about working at that company really stuck out to you that they mentioned, it can be nice to kind of mention that in the message. And then of course, you want to maybe conclude by expressing your sincere interest in the internship and asking if there's anything else you can provide to them, or any kind of formal application that you need to proceed with in order to be considered for an internship at that company. So giving thanks, referencing details of the conversation that you had, and then expressing interest in formally applying for an internship or continuing the conversation about an internship at their company. So really, it's that simple. Maybe a short paragraph at most, maybe two, and it's really is kind of just this real courteous thank you message. Now, we do also encourage you consider, especially if you're on LinkedIn already, consider also connecting with them and following up on LinkedIn, and you're kind of seeing a screenshot of that on the right, where it's a lot of the same idea to the same content we were just talking about in the email. But the value of doing this on LinkedIn as well is LinkedIn is a platform that's all about building and maintaining professional relationships. So by following up and connecting with the individuals you meet with on LinkedIn, this will be a way to, in real time, kind of cultivate and build your professional network. And then those people are in your LinkedIn network. You'll see updates from them. If you ever want to follow up in the future about opportunities at their company, you could do that easily via LinkedIn. So there's lots of advantages, especially if you're already on LinkedIn and have a profile, to doing this both in email and also in LinkedIn. And again, Jason and I have been saying this routinely. If this is something you're unsure about, please, please, please feel free to follow up with us about this. You can come to drop-ins or meet with us, and we'll work with you on your situation and what you can be saying and how to handle this professionally. But I want to kind of plant the seed in your minds to keep this in mind as something you should be doing after the event itself. So again, I've kind of just been saying this throughout, but I just want to reiterate one last point. There's ample opportunity to meet with us. Tonight was sort of hopefully an overview that gave you a little more confidence and a sense of what this event is all about. But I know that for every individual, you're going to have your own personal questions, and we are available to you for that. So we do have remote drop-in hours that occur over Zoom on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also have drop-in hours on Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can access the drop-in hours from our website. The link is down here. You can also access and schedule longer 30 or 60-minute appointments with us, remote appointments with us, also via this link here. And we are constantly and consistently meeting with students for all things career-related. But of course, over the next 2 weeks, we are definitely going to be ready and willing to help you prepare and get you ready for this event and maximize it and get you, feeling as confident as you possibly can. And I know you're all going to be great. And of course, just want you to feel like if you have questions that we're there to reach out to you.